if you've watched examples online, that we try to keep conversations fairly brief. 4 or 5 minutes, sometimes they go 10 or 20 minutes. And also, I should let you know, there's a good chance that those Mormon guys might be coming back down for a follow-up conversation. So if that happens, I might want to wrap this one up a little sooner than maybe normal.
Oh.
But did you say your name was Matthew?
Yes.
Okay.
If how much time do you think I'll have if that's the case? Because like
I don't know, how much time do you? What is your claim, and how much time do you think you need to explore it with me?
Yeah, like maybe a solid 10 minutes would be fine.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. You're familiar with Street Epistemology, and you wanted to have your belief explored with it?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I appreciate your courageousness to do that.
Yeah.
Because I think some people, in fact, there's a guy who I've talked to 3 times off camera, and he knows that I'm here because he asked me to I offered to let him know next time I was going to be here. And he offered to meet me in the coffee shop off camera to talk about his views. And he wasn't willing to come here on camera to do it, so I think it's really good that you're willing to do it.
Yeah, like anything that'll ask for intellectual exploration, like anything that'll better the academic community. It's what I do.
Oh, cool. What are you studying here? What's the book for?
This is actually my major is computer science, cybersecurity.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're a computer science major?
Yeah.
How long have you been studying it?
Ooh, maybe like a solid 2 years.
Did you also like find yourself programming and learning about computer science before
I
you
got
decided
here?
like study it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I wanna. Did you start recording already? Yeah. Maybe we should start, just so that like, it doesn't run out.
Oh, are you hurting for battery juice or something? Or what?
Oh no, like I'm not sure how quickly the storage fills up on iPhones. So.
Okay.
Yeah, storage space for iPhones.
If it's any consolation, I'm using 3 cameras to capture it, 2 of which are right here in front of us. So if it does die, we've got it.
All right.
But hello, how are you? Are you with these guys too? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sure, sounds good. What claim do you tend to make because you think that it's true that we can explore together?
That Jesus is God and that He rose from the dead.
Jesus is God and He rose from the dead?
Yeah.
That's 2 claims.
Okay.
Well,
Fair.
we can go with either one, or we can sort of combine them, I suppose. Is one dependent on the other?
Jesus is God. Yes, it's dependent on Jesus rose from the dead.
He wouldn't be God if He didn't rise from the dead?
That's correct, because there has to be some sort of quantification of proof, right, that He is God.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think that a person couldn't raise from the dead unless they were God. Wouldn't His rising from the dead be dependent on Him being God, or is it really the other way around?
Well, so the causation is that because He is God, but in order for us to determine whether,
I see. The reason why you can say God is real is because you're sure He rose from the dead.
Not necessarily. That's just one of my many examples.
Okay.
Like there's intelligent design, there's the cosmological argument, things of that like nature. Yeah, but I'd like to explore this one. But we can talk about those if you want to.
I would like to talk about the reason that gives you the most confidence that it's true, and would result in the greatest drop in your confidence that it's true if you discovered that it's not a good reason.
Right.
Do you follow me?
Yes.
So if Jesus rose from the dead is the reason, if you discovered that you don't have a good reason for thinking that Jesus rose from the dead, and you say, if I discovered that, I would drop the greatest. My drop. I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. I would more or less deconvert from Christianity if I found good enough reason that my belief was false. Yes.
What if you found no good reason for thinking that it was true?
That would be the same thing, I guess.
Okay.
Or the same. I would go through the same process.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you discover that you have no good reason for thinking that Jesus rose from the dead, it would significantly impact your confidence that Jesus was God.
Say that again? Sorry.
Yeah. If you discovered that you don't have any good reason for thinking that Jesus rose from the dead, it would significantly impact your confidence that Jesus was God.
Yes.
Okay. How much of a drop in confidence are we talking about? Would it knock you down from a 100 to a 97?
Nah, I'd say from 100 to. Well, I mean, I'd have to give it a shot, but considering that, assuming that my arguments would just fall short of everything, then yeah, it would be pretty low. Definitely less than 50 for sure. Probably much less than that.
Okay.
If I discovered I had no
30,
reason.
40% or something like that.
Something.
Well, that would probably be a really good reason to explore that. If it would have that much of an impact in your confidence that Jesus is God, then I think we should definitely explore how you determine that Jesus rose from the dead. Hello. Wow, we got 4 people here now. That's good. Are you all together?
No.
I don't.
Okay.
I just heard Christianity and I was like, okay.
Oh, okay.
I'm
She's
hi.
more than more.
Are you all in the same group or something? Because I know
No.
that there are a lot of on-campus groups.
No, sir, we
no,
are
not
not.
really.
You're not part of any of the groups? You're certainly not? Do you have any issues with the groups by any chance? Or?
Not that I can think
okay.
of at the moment.
Well, we know each other as friends, but we're not like in a group together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we just have this on camera, so like it's up to you if you want to stay.
Well, that's fine.
All right. Yeah.
Here, I think it's great that you want to record it, but just so you know, sometimes having a lot of people standing around while you're saying these things could make my conversation partners feel uncomfortable. So I'm interviewing you. You have full say on this, but if you would like your friends to step away, they can. But if you're comfortable with them being here, they're more than welcome to stay too.
I would. It's up to them. Like I'm more than welcome to have them listen on.
I'm good.
As a matter. Yeah. You good? You good?
I'm interested to see where this goes.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess since we've identified the real reason, or at least a very important reason for thinking that this is true, can we explore the steps that you use to get to your conclusion that Jesus rose from the dead? I assume we're talking about Jesus Christ, the Christian,
Yes.
the Son of
Jesus-
God, right?
Jesus, son of Nazareth, the one who was crucified at around 30 or 33. Yeah, that one. The one that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not to be pedantic, but what does it mean to be dead?
To be dead means that your vital, what keeps you conscious in the real world is no longer intact.
Okay.
No.
In
Yes.
order for somebody to rise from the dead, would they also have to be dead?
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually seriously wondering about this. I'm honestly curious.
Sure.
Do we need to first discuss how you concluded that he was dead before we can decide,
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
before we
So-
can actually explore how he rose from the dead? Or
Sure. So.
should we skip that step? I don't.
No,
help me out.
it's all right. We can definitely go on to that step. So, the way Gary Habermas lists a plethora of sources, I think he comes to around the 40s to the sources of Jesus' existence, and that includes Christians, non-Christians, enemies of Christians. Yes. So it's because of that mass majority of sources, which we can talk about, that we can easily conclude that for sure he existed, he was crucified, and that he preached for the kingdom of God.
There's 40 sources that say that he existed. Do those same 40 say that he also rose from the dead?
Well,
Or are they just talking about his existence?
well, we're first establishing, correct me if I'm wrong, but that he died first, right?
Yeah. I guess we can just assume that he existed, I suppose, and just focus on
Sure.
that he died. Maybe just for the purpose of this. Yeah. So let's
Yeah.
just do that. Do the 40? Did you say that there's 40? There's 40 what? I'm sorry.
Sources,
There's 40 sources that claim that he.
independent sources.
Are they claims or are they proofs? Are they evidences?
So, well, how do I put this way? When you were born knowing nothing, right? I promise I have a direction to this.
When I was born, did I know nothing? I mean, I guess it could be argued that maybe babies know how to breathe when they're born, or cry, or defecate, maybe.
or I guess
latch onto a teat when they're hungry or something.
yeah, I guess like consciously
Like
knowing something.
I don't mean to be too pedantic here, but before I agree to that, I think I need to understand what you mean by know things.
Yes.
Because I gave a couple examples that I would say, well, yeah, babies know things. They know that they're hungry, perhaps.
Well, I think it would be a mistake to say that I know all of health science because I'm a human being, and health science is part of me. So there definitely has to be some cognitive faculty that is engaged with that. So my point is that I'm saying is that when you're born, you're not born with logical principles. You learn those along the way. Yeah. So if you're born with things that you learn along the way, then that means that the way that we formulate our deductive principles is primarily through induction.
Do you have an example of a human who might be coming to knowledge through induction?
Yes. So, for example, children under 4, there's a study that says that as soon as someone were to step out of their sight, they're not conscious of the fact that they exist until
Oh, I
they
see.
develop that.
Like a kid might start crying when they see mommy or daddy walking away because the brains haven't developed yet to the point where they can deduce.
I wouldn't speak for every kid, but like,
Yeah.
up until 4, yeah. But my point is that in the same manner we should approach the existence of Jesus. Now, we use induction to come to the most probable, most reliable, most accurate conclusion.
Is that where the 40 sources come in?
Yes. Because if someone has 40 sources backing up their crucifixion, what they preached, and who they were, then most likely, a lot likely, he definitely was crucified and existed. I think it was, what's his name, John Dominic Crossan, head of the Jesus Seminar, a camp for liberal Christians, and he said, which do not necessarily share, and mostly do not share the conservative views of Christians, and he says that Jesus' existence and crucifixion are as sure as anything in history. And it's because of this reason that you go to any good academic institution and they will tell you Jesus for sure existed.
Here's what I'm wondering about sources.
And was crucified. Yeah.
Here's what I'm wondering though when I hear people talk about induction and sources.
Sure.
Could it be demonstrating that that's what these people thought was true at the time, and yet may not be true in reality?
Yeah, so you need to have essentially counter sources.
Counter sources to show that it wasn't true?
Yes, you need evidence to show that he did not existed in lieu of the evidence we currently have that show that he most likely for sure existed. I'm not talking about I'm not talking about like burden of proof or anything like that. I'm just saying that once I've established my case, now it's the opposing side's turn.
This is what I hear you saying. We have 40 sources that say people say that Jesus rose from the dead.
That, well, some of them, a good number of them say that he rose from the dead, because some of them are Christian. But yeah.
And
so,
go ahead.
yeah. So, but there are also people, like I'll give you an example, like Tacitus, right? He's not a Christian, but he says that a malevolent superstition broke out in Jerusalem where the first evil had been birthed or something to that extent, when he's talking about this figure called Christus, referring to Jesus, the one who was crucified under Pontius Pilate, the one who Christians were named after. And he was talking about this when he was talking about the burning of Christians in Rome.
Okay.
Somewhere around
This is
600.
one of the 40 examples
Yes.
that you would say is a source.
Yes.
And here's what I'm wondering though.
Sure.
It was almost sound like you were saying we can be confident in sources that say things are true if there are no other sources that say that those things aren't true.
Let me put it this way. What is your confidence that he that the sources are wrong.
I'm not really an expert in biblical sources.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Well, let me just put it this way: if I read,
And they're not all biblical, by the way.
there's
Yeah.
extra biblical sources
Yeah.
to
To corroborate.
the claims that people made at that time that they think Jesus rose from the dead.
Mhm.
And there's not a lot of claims out there that say that he didn't.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
From my understanding, it almost sounded like you were saying we should accept the 40 sources as being great, reliable corroborations of Jesus rising from the dead, because we don't have 40 sources saying that he didn't.
It doesn't necessarily have to be sources as counter evidence. It just has to be some sort of evidence. Yeah.
What evidence would you accept as a counterbalance to the 40 sources that are in favor?
That is a good question. That would be very hard to, because that 40 sources is a lot. Like I'm telling you, it's a lot. Especially once you talk about like within a few years, you can get back to Jesus.
If there were 80 sources, would we be more justified in accepting the claim?
We would be more justified, but we would still, in both scenarios, you would have to necessarily conclude that Jesus existed because it is more probable than all the other possibilities regarding his existence and crucifixion.
What makes it more probable that a man rose from the dead?
What makes it more probable that a man...
The number of... Yeah. What is it... What is increasing the probability that what you're thinking is true?
Yeah, so do you want to move on from Jesus died?
No. I'm still interested in exploring that.
Okay.
What is you mentioned probabilities, I think. And
Yes.
what is increasing the probability? Are the 40 sources influencing the probability that the claim that Jesus rose from the dead is true?
One individual source is not going to do anything. For example, like that one disputed passage in Josephus, that's not going to do anything.
You'll throw that one out, and instead of 41, we got 40.
Yeah. And plus, there's another source in Josephus, and a lot of people get that wrong.
This is what I'm wondering, though. If we found more sources to back it up, would the probability increase? And conversely,
It would increase by a bit.
Go by a bit.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that people could have thought that something was true, that Jesus rose from the dead, and we're writing about it, things that we consider sources today, and it's confirming that that's what they thought, but it not really be the case?
Yeah. So
and it's not true in reality.
So then it goes back to probabilities. Do people have hallucinations? Do people lie under these circumstances? And so you have to look at the evidence.
Are those the only two explanations, possible explanations?
It's funny because like I've surveyed the literature thousands of times. I've watched so many debates. I've spoken to scholars myself, and the ones who don't agree with Jesus rising from the dead always say the same thing. They say, "We don't know," because they don't want to commit to a conclusion because they know that can easily be knocked down by the current theory we have.
I'm sorry, are you saying that there are people who don't want to accept the sources as evidence because they don't want to believe it, or were you saying something else?
I wasn't saying that for sure. Now I'm trying to remember what I just said.
That's okay.
Yeah. Can you help me a bit? What was I saying before?
I was wondering, it almost sounded like you were saying that there are people who will come up with ways to not accept your evidence because they don't want to believe the claim.
Yes.
I don't know if you were saying that or not.
Yeah, more or less. But my point, the drive point home is that the alternative explanations, as you were saying before, as you were inquiring before, although there are a lot to choose from, none of them are really good. It's a mile wide, inch deep territory.
Is this your way of saying that the best reason for thinking that Jesus rose from the dead is the 40 sources?
No, I'm saying the best way to say. The best way to know that Jesus rose from the dead is what Gary Habermas calls the minimal facts argument, what Michael Kona calls the historical bedrock, what all scholars will agree on, regardless of whether they're Christian, atheist, Muslim, agnostic, whatever belief system they have. They will agree on these things, that Jesus for sure existed and was crucified under Pontius Pilate, and that
Is that where the sources? Is it because of the sources? Is that why they think this?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and a lot of other things too.
Here's the fundamental question.
Yeah,
Oh,
can I
please.
just-
Yes.
Yeah, and that his disciples, his followers, thought that had the conviction that he rose from the dead very early on, right after his crucifixion, and that the main leaders of the apostles, and I'm speaking about Peter, Paul, who later came, he wasn't a Christian, but he converted to Christianity after having an experience of what he called the risen Jesus. James, the brother of Jesus, that one is recorded in somewhere in Josephus's Antiquities of the Jews. I think there is one more.
We don't have to go through all of them. I actually
Yeah.
kind of like to keep it high level
Yeah.
because I'm wondering about these 40 sources. When I read a story, and even if 40 people corroborate it, and let's say they've corroborated it over, I don't know how many years, whatever, I still wouldn't be willing. I might be willing to consider it, but I don't think I'd be willing to accept it as factually true.
So then, I'm reminded of the time when Kenneth Humphreys confronted Gary Habermas on what's the difference between Jesus and Snow White, and the difference is that no one is, even though Snow White is being talked around and corroborated per se, not exactly per se, no one is saying that Snow White is real, right? It's in the context of tale. It's in the context of of a story that is not to be taken true, but instead to derive some sort of entertainment from it.
So if I understand your position, we could be fairly confident that the sources are a source of knowledge because people believe that it was the case, that they believe that it was true. Whereas with Snow White, we don't have people running around saying that they believe that she rose from the dead. And because of that distinction, we are on solid footing for accepting the sources as evidence. Is that your position?
To an extent, I'll say yes.
Okay. Well, that's a good chat.
Oh, you want to end here?
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You have any questions for me before we wrap it up, or
Yeah,
any of you
when's
any of you
next-
following? Hi.
When's the next time you'll be around?
That's a good question. Maybe next week if the weather's decent.
Next week? All right.
Yeah.
Matthew.
Matthew, thank you very much. My name is Anthony. Thank you for coming up to me and sharing your views and giving these reasons why you think that this is all true.
Well, it isn't complete because of the time frame we had, but I do thank all of you for giving us time to explain.
Thanks for listening in.
Yeah.
Did any of you have any feedback for either one of us?
Yeah,
You
sure.
were nice, quiet, respectful listeners.
You're very respectful, sir.
Do you mind if I keep recording if I turn and get you all on camera? You guys okay with that?
Hi.
Okay, okay. This
Hello.
might be a problem here.
My arms are getting sore.
So it could be really challenging for people. Well, it's very courageous for him to come up to talk to me about that, particularly because it is being recorded. And if you're familiar at all with what I do, I tend to ask very tough questions. So I admire
That's
you
good.
coming up to me to explore that with me. I really do.
And I admire you for asking the brave questions that are kept low key for a lot of people.
It can be tough to keep it low key. Sometimes you can feel like your emotions getting in the way, but you have to kind of tamp them down for the purpose of the exploration. So that was good.
Yeah.
I was going to add something else there, but I don't remember what it was.
Exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing Street Epistemology. You can look at. Would you like a sticker or a magnet? Magnet? Yeah. So search for these words on YouTube, and you'll see video examples of me exploring people's claims like that. Whether it's about Jesus existing, or Vishnu existing, or Allah being real. And they may even give the same reasons. Well, there's lots of sources and lots of people believed it. But we explore these claims in a really respectful way. And we even talk about politics.
Real quick question: does anyone ever have come up with the claim that they want you to challenge that Muhammad is real?
That what was real?
That Muhammad is real, the prophet
Yeah.
of Islam?
Yeah, I've had conversations on this campus with people who think Muhammad is real. and Vishnu, and Ganapati, and Brahma, and a couple other deities. And then you meet some people who say, well, God is love. God is this feeling that I get. I actually interviewed 2 Mormons an hour and a half ago, and they might actually be coming down for a follow-up talk. So yeah, I meet lots of people who believe in different gods, and what's interesting is that they give a lot of the same reasons that we heard from Matthew here. Now, you might contest that because, well, these are older, lots of people believed it, they were willing to die for it. But when we get down to the real reasons why, they're not often much different, which is one of the reasons why I don't really believe in any gods. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can definitely save this discussion for later, but
Would you like one also?
I wouldn't agree at all that we have the same reasons, because for one thing, you could probably attest to this, but you probably don't remember someone like me coming up and saying, oh, let's record this, oh, let me explain my views, things of that nature, and was able to answer all of the questions.
You don't think I would remember somebody who answered the questions?
Or at least that it would be very rare.
Oh, no. I tend to remember many of the people I talk to, or at least the conversations. Sometimes I forget.
With a collegiate level of understanding, not just answering just for the sake of answering.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think that your responses were better than the typical responses I might get?
Absolutely.
Have you watched any of my stuff?
I did watch this one thing.
You've watched one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, well, that's what's interesting is a lot of people will comment on my videos that you need to talk to a real Christian who could defend it, which I think in a way is a little bit insulting to the people that I speak to, because the reasons why you think your God is real may be completely different reasons why you think the same God is real. And what's important is how you are coming to your conclusion. Even though he may not think that you have a really good reason or a good method, and his is superior, and by the way, you should adopt his view, when I'm exploring why you think that it's true, it's your reasons and your method that's important. And if you discover that I don't have a good reason or a good method for thinking that it's true, maybe you'll seek out better reasons. Maybe he actually has them. So there's value in engaging with somebody, even though they may have not thought it through all the way, maybe as much as you have.
And I'm not saying that it's a waste of time for them, but
I don't view it as a waste of time for me or them or anyone that might be watching.
Yeah.
Because I can upload it. I have to grab some water because my throat's really dry. Would you mind holding my board? I might have a talk with somebody who gives a reason that is a crazy reason in many people's eyes. But 40 people watching that encounter might say that's the same reason that I'd give to that guy if he interviewed me. And it causes them to take another look at their beliefs and find better reasons for holding their views. So there's value in surfacing bad reasons and unreliable methods, because then we can at least acknowledge that we have those and we can find better reasons, like maybe your friend here has, and better methods.
That's right.
I was thinking of kind of making you a better Christian. Have to question what you believe.
It can, but you have to be willing to step up to the plate like you did, and I think it was really brave of you to do that. I'm not just blowing smoke. Honestly, I'm proud that you did that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
From a
Do we want to end the recording here, or
Good,
do
sir.
you guys have any more questions? You guys good?
Do you believe anything, sir?
Pardon me?
Do you hold any moral beliefs or views?
I don't think that there are any gods. I don't think that going off of 40 sources that say something is true is a really good way to test it, particularly if it's an unusual claim that we don't tend to run into normally in our daily dealings with reality.
Would you say you're agnostic then, or?
I'm an agnostic atheist. Here's my card. Here's my card too.
What makes you
I see that we're competing for the last word.
Thank you.
The last word.
Yeah.
What's
So I don't know if I'm
I got
sorry.
my marker. That's washable, so that should come out.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if I want to respond to that. But
To
in any
what?
case, like, I will be available for those of you watching. I will send my contact information below if you guys have any questions. And I suppose he has the same thing. Street Epistemology. This is Anthony Mangabasco. Did I get it right?
You got it right.
Sweet.
That's good.
Check out Street Epistemology. We have lots of examples where we explore claims just like Matthew here had, and other claims across religion, politics, social justice, you name it. We usually have had the conversations.
All right.
And I'll be happy to answer your question too if you want to get more into it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I
your
think
time.
that's a wrap.
Sounds good.